They made clutch kicks. They got the stop after the punt return. They got the interception late. Hey
everyone, welcome into TexAgs Rewind presented by Specs in the Rollo Insurance Studio. I'm going to make an observation, okay? Luke Evangelist at the Angry Elephant News and Social Center. Not that the audience cares about this, but I have noticed a very friendly disposition by Nick Savage today. More smiles than I'm used to. Have you noticed the same thing?
Yes, I have. It's probably because of all the good he's done on Prize Picks.
So you just made this a spot. You just
I
was trying to have a genuine conversation.
Just to mention.
Talk about a grinder, Luke Evangelist. Goodness gracious.
Nick, you were happy because they won a tight football game, correct?
Yeah, the attitude around the win, I didn't necessarily understand. It felt like we were talking about a loss, but it's a good Bowling Green team. Yeah, we would have liked to seen a blowout. Yeah, we would have liked to seen them cover, but a win is a win. Moving into a big SEC game this week, it's like looking at it on paper, I have no idea what to think about it. But it's Monday, so we got time to figure it out.
Favorite part of the show, Nick?
Tom Hart being on the phone for the first 3/4 of it, then figuring out how to unfreeze his Zoom.
Good job. Luke, your favorite part?
Coach Jackie Sherrill.
Yeah, that's the right answer.
Yeah.
And I'll say Billy Liucci and Olin Buchanan and everybody that watches the show and listens to the show that has positive thoughts when they email and text the show and comment and subscribe. That and more, so Rewind, check it. You cannot, and I said this on the post-game wrap, and let's see if I can make it make more sense now. You can't copy and paste one game and apply it to the rest of the season, right? You can't look at Notre Dame and be like, this is who we're going to be. Like, there are matchups that are bad. There are games that are bad. There are just days that the other team has figured something out about you, or they have the secret sauce. So I'm not going to allow that game, just like I didn't allow Notre Dame, to kind of taint the entire season. What it does do is now we're a quarter through the season.
Mm-hmm. And actually a third.
Excuse me, a third through the season. And it makes me look at things and I'm like, okay. So the defensive line has played really well. I want them to play better. Okay. The wide receivers I have been totally underwhelmed with this year. Okay. The running game, pretty solid. Now, I don't think the tip of the cap again to Bowling Green for putting 1,000 people in the box to make it very hard for A&M to run initially. But when you look at the numbers, they found their inches. But there are things that are starting to show up with only one SEC game that make you say, all right, I thought we'd be better here, and I thought we'd maybe be worse here. There's some things. I just want to see momentum. I just want to feel like we felt after Florida, which was, all right, each week feels a little better. This is the first week where I was like, I don't know if I felt better.
Yeah, to be honest, I was underwhelmed with Colin Klein's play selection. Now, you at the end of the game, you're looking at A&M rushing for 235 yards or something around there, and you think, they ran the ball pretty well. It just didn't feel like they were having a lot of success running. A lot of first down runs were getting 4 yards or less, and you were constantly looking at second and long and things like that. Bowling Green were putting 8, sometimes 9 in the box. They were consistently run blitzing, and you were running right into it.
Yep.
I don't understand that. Why you didn't come up with something, more wrinkles to try to capitalize on, like Bowling Green did. A&M was putting a whole lot of pressure right up the middle. So what did Bowling Green do when they got down around the 20-yard line? They ran a middle screen to the tight end that would have been a touchdown, but there was a holding penalty off.
That's right. Yeah. So through a third of the season, what do you think is the biggest issue with this team that you've seen so far? If you had to say one thing, this has been the biggest issue so far.
Or
a big issue.
Well, coming out of that last game, I would say coverage. Guys, now you saw Florida have some guys open too. Fortunately, early, Mertz wasn't, they had one that would have been a big gain, and the guy was a little bit high, and the tight end, I think it was, couldn't hold on to it. But toward the end, they were playing off, and so coverage is a problem. Do you have a sense of what you feel like A&M is doing really well and what A&M is struggling at the most? Because maybe you see things as a coach differently than we do.
Well, the things that when you look at game by game, the first game, certainly we did not play well up front. The second game, the last game against Florida, we played well up front in certainly offensive linemen, but we went backwards because we're not generating enough. Now, is that the offensive blocking or is that the running backs? Do we have a home run hitter as a running back? And, unfortunately, we lost during fall camp the home run hitter that we still need. But we need to fix the running game, meaning we need to help Marcel Reed because the running and throwing game is so much comparable and compatible that, sometimes you use the throwing game to open up the running, but they have both, the running and throwing. I've always said this about, young quarterbacks. And certainly when young quarterbacks come in and play, and then they may struggle a game, the next game or a game down the road, is they don't know any better yet. They're too young to understand that there will be times where they have to pick themselves up and, do things to win the game. So to answer your question, I think we're improving. I still think that we have to certainly improve our running game a lot more. And, the kicking game is so important, and we certainly can't have a block punt.
I feel like because I have my responsibility to tell an accurate depiction of what I saw in the game and just to be as honest as possible. But I also feel like a Debbie Downer because I leave this Bowling Green game kind of underwhelmed, and that's not a shot at Bowling Green because I think Bowling Green's really good and they play teams tight. But I didn't walk away from that game feeling great, but I also feel great leaving with a win as opposed to the alternative.
I think that's the only conclusion you can make with an opponent like that and after a game like that. I mean, if you want to focus on the positives, once again, second consecutive game that haven't allowed the opponent to make it to the century mark in rushing yards. I think that's really big in this game, this day and age of college football. And Marcel Reed was good enough to win the game. I think from a big picture standpoint, if you dialed in on A&M right now, the answer to the quiz would be, well, this is kind of what we thought we were going to get year one from Mike Elko. A great defense and the offense that needs to come along. Now, the Wigman injury notwithstanding, that obviously gets in the way a lot in terms of what can be expected, but the ability to win games like this. And I'm glad you brought up that Bowling Green is a good opponent and their ability to keep games close. The MAC, to me, that conference has such a wide variance in good teams and terrible teams. And more often than not, we seem to focus on the back end of those lower level conferences. Oh my gosh, Kent State, gave up 71 to Tennessee. Kent State and Bowling Green may be in the same conference, but they're not in the same league, if you know what I'm saying. So I think you need to look at that realistically and say, okay, listen, that's a team that played Penn State close. This is a team over the years that plays their Big Ten opponents close. That's a good, solid win for A&M. It wasn't perfect. It shows that there's still a lot of improvement to come for this program. But get a win and move on. There are a lot of teams in the country that would have loved to have had a win this past weekend that didn't.
This team they played Saturday, as we transition into talking about this game, was a lot better than the majority of these, what we used to call G5s, these non-power conference teams that you've played over the years. This was one of the better ones that I've seen. I would almost say, now, App State has had much better teams than the one that came in and beat A&M. Even though App State crept into the rankings after they beat the Aggies because the Aggies were an inflated number 6, as it turns out. But that App State team did it by gaining 3 yards of play for 4 quarters, basically. They just and A&M played such awful football in that game. I would challenge you to point out a play that Texas A&M made in that game outside of A-Chain running the kickoff back for, I believe, A&M's only touchdown of the day. I would challenge you to find a play on either side of the ball, They really rose up and did something to win. Saturday night, now, and A&M won the game, so there's a massive difference there. But they made a lot of plays in that game. Because Bowling Green was making some too, particularly in the second half. But the Aggies had to make plays to win the game. They did not play terrible football, in my opinion. They didn't play good. It was not their A game. Right. But it wasn't like they just went out there, pissed the bed, no-showed, overlooked them, and just, like, where you go, what was that? That just wrecked the season. I mean, they're making plays on the first drive, not just the touchdown, but a 3rd and 8, 15-yard pass. They're 2 for 2 on 4th downs in that game. You guys were talking about Ja'Day Walker stepping up big in that third quarter drive. They made clutch kicks. They got the stop after the punt return. They got the interception late. They one after the other. Marcel, again, like, I went in depth about what I thought of his performance yesterday. When the fourth quarter came around and it was like win or be the talk of college football, get upset time, Marcel Reed was very calm. And even if he wasn't seeing open guys, or if they were open or if they weren't, he just calmly would run the ball, move the sticks, keep drives alive. And I just thought he was really poised quarterback down the stretch. And I thought the Aggies, in general, played like a poised football team. You get 2 4th down plays, and they just clear the sticks and keep the drive alive. It's an easy way for momentum to go away and go, oh, man, here we go. They hung in. They ended that drive with an interception. You give it back one play later, they hold for a field goal. So totally different, but the reason they had to play like that is that Bowling Green squad was not your typical G5. They're a pretty damn good team by MAC/G5 standards. Reminded me more of La Tech in 2012 than ULM last year.
All right, Luke, tell the snap. The snap
that was really loud.
Look at that.
Tell the people what to do.
Like, comment, subscribe. Share.
Turn your notifications on. Thank you for watching.
We just lost subscribers, sir. Thank you so much. We'll see you next time.